Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is, without a doubt, one of the absolute greatest aviation mysteries of all time. We're going to carefully break down the actual, verifiable facts of a story that literally still baffles the smartest minds in the industry.
So let's just get right into it and ask the central, frankly agonizing question here. How do you lose a 240-ton Boeing 777? I mean, in our modern era, we're constantly tracked, right? By the internet, satellites, radar. The idea of a massive, state-of-the-art aircraft carrying 239 people just vanishing off the grid, it just doesn't happen. And yet, it did.
Section 1. A routine flight goes dark.
To really grasp this, we have to look at March 8, 2014. We have a highly experienced crew, commanded by veteran Captain Zahari Shah, prepping for a totally standard flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Takeoff happens incredibly smoothly at 12:32 a.m. By 1:07 a.m., an automated message beams back to base, perfectly normal. 1:19 a.m. hits, and there's a standard, routine handoff with air traffic control. But then, just 2 minutes later, at 1:21 a.m., the plane's transponder, which is the device that tells radar its height, speed, and direction, it just goes dark.
And it wasn't just the transponder. The ACAR system failed too. If you're not familiar, think of ACARs like a giant smartphone that constantly beams maintenance data down to the ground. So, if someone wanted to hide, shutting this down would be absolutely crucial. The sudden failure of dual, totally independent communication systems, at the exact moment the plane entered a sort of no-man's land between national airspaces, well, that is exactly where this mystery really deepens.
Section 2. Confusion and missed opportunities.
So, when air traffic control couldn't reach the plane, naturally, they called Malaysia Airlines. The airline claimed, based on their internal system, that the aircraft was totally fine and tracking normally off the coast of Vietnam. But the chilling reality? It was entirely different. The airline hadn't actually established any real communication. The transponder was off, and the plane was just missing. Their internal tracking was honestly just a flight projection, totally unreliable for knowing where the plane actually was.
And that bad information led to a truly catastrophic delay. 4 hours. Just let that sink in. For 4 precious hours, while this plane was still flying out there in the dark, absolutely no search and rescue operation was underway.
Section 3. The satellite data breakthrough.
Days into the search, with nothing but dead ends, investigators finally realized something huge. The plane didn't crash immediately after losing contact. Initially, fleets of ships and planes were scouring the South China Sea to the east, right where the plane last spoke to civilian radar. But it turned out military radar had secretly tracked the plane making a hard 90-degree left turn back to the west. And then a massive data breakthrough shifted the entire search thousands of miles away.
That breakthrough? It came from digital handshakes. A British satellite company named Inmarsat discovered that even though the plane's main communication systems were off, a terminal on board was still automatically pinging their satellite. It was essentially whispering, "Hey, I'm still here." Through some incredibly complex mathematical reverse engineering, they proved the plane actually flew for up to 6.5 hours after going dark. It tracked all the way down to a remarkably remote, really treacherous area of the southern Indian Ocean.
Section 4. Theories behind the mystery.
Okay, so without the black boxes, we have to ask, why on earth did it fly there? Investigators essentially wrestled with 3 main theories: pilot intent, a catastrophic mechanical failure, or a hijacking by someone else on board. Now, authorities conducted extensive, and I mean extensive, background checks on every single passenger and crew member. And guess what? They found absolutely no motives, no history of emotional distress, no red flags at all. Everyone was cleared.
Which naturally brings us to the mechanical failure theory. Some experts suggest a sudden, catastrophic fire or maybe a rapid depressurization could have knocked out the comms and quickly suffocated everyone on board. In this incredibly tragic scenario, MH370 basically became a ghost airplane. It would have just flown entirely on autopilot through the night, totally unresponsive, until it finally ran out of fuel and dropped into the sea.
However, a lot of other experts push back pretty hard on that ghost plane idea. Why? Well, the plane's sudden, extremely sharp 90-degree turn, along with specific altitude changes, strongly points to deliberate human manipulation. I mean, a machine doesn't generally just turn off its own radios and navigate a brand new, evasive route, right? But again, the absolute lack of any known motive leaves these experts completely grasping for answers in the dark.
Section 5. Debris found. Questions remain.
So, with all that mathematical data pointing to the Indian Ocean, the world launched literally the most expensive search in human history. Yet, it took an agonizing 17 months before the ocean finally gave up a clue. Think about that. A year and a half of searching empty, uncharted waters before a single piece of the aircraft, an intricate wing part called a flaperon, finally washed up on a remote island near Madagascar. That is thousands of miles away from the suspected crash site.
Over the years, beach cleaners and investigators have recovered 27 pieces of suspected debris. But here's the kicker. Out of all of that, only 3 pieces have been definitively linked to MH370. That means out of a massive 240-ton aircraft, just a handful of fragments have actually been verified. Now, it proved the plane definitely went into the water, but it told us absolutely nothing about exactly where or why.
To really understand why so little has been found, you have to consider the sheer scale of the operation. Investigators scoured over 144,000 square miles of treacherous underwater mountains and deep crevices. To put that into perspective, it's an area so remote it takes ships nearly a week just to sail out there from Australia. Even with the absolute best robotic submarines in the world, the ocean is simply too vast.
And that leaves us right here, staring at a deeply unsettling question. Years later, the official safety reports concluded that they still, to this day, do not know the cause of the disappearance. Until the main wreckage and those black boxes are actually found, the absolute truth of what happened in that cockpit remains completely hidden at the bottom of the sea. Will the ocean ever reveal its secrets, or will MH370 forever remain aviation's greatest ghost story? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those tough questions, and we'll see you next time.